If you want me to take a lie detector, Brian, I'll take it.
Portal watch this, portal watch that.
The dog Mama Duke. People say I like that dog.
What are you talking about playing walk-on? Who do you think walked onto the team?
Anybody that thinks this is going to come back is either naive or plain stupid.
All across CNY.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
It's the 315.
Hardy faking, feeds the crease. Jameson got it.
He scores! Here's Brian Higgins.
Wednesday. Welcome. It's a good amount of welcomes, huh? I feel good about it. Welcome in here on this Wednesday. Q's, Utica, Rome. What's up, Rome? How we doing out there? Q Sports Talk. Q Sports Talk on the YouTubes. QSportsTalk.com. We're talking wherever you want us to be talking. We're over the lot. Welcome in. A couple of good guests for you today. Boston College football on Saturday. Our guy from the BC Football Radio Network, Scott Mutrin, will join us coming up later this hour. A little preview of the Eagles. Bill O'Brien, Doug Marrone. Ooh. That Castellanos fellow. Pretty good at the scooting around quarterback stuff. So we'll get into that later this hour. College basketball season is underway. Our guy Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated joins us in hour 2. Kind of, a little check-in, little season preview. Who's good? What's up with the ACC? Goose? Questions like that. Thorough investigative questions like that with our guy Kev coming up next hour. All of that and your calls throughout today at 315-437-7644. That is a 4. Followed by an E-S, then a P-N, and then 2 more 4s. 437-7644 to get on the horde and get in touch with us here on this Wednesday. Lots going on. Women's basketball team won comfortably, at least late, in their opener last night. Hammered Niagara down the stretch in the Dome. That was nip and tuck there for a minute. So they're 1-0. The men 1-0 from Monday, but a little more nail-biting than that against their New York foe. Football getting back in the mix on Saturday. Oh, yeah. We got all sorts of stuff going on today to touch base on. It's middle of the week, maybe power rankings, anyone? The first college football playoff rankings are out there. Where is the ACC featured? Questions that we'll all get into throughout our time together on the program today. So without further ado, let's get moving.
We start with a Burdick BMW opening drive.
There we go, revving off into the old radio show here today. And, yeah, we often do this on Tuesday. Yesterday there was a lot going on. There was a lot going on yesterday, so I said, you know what, Wednesday's a good time to get into our ACC Who's Good in the ACC Power Rankings, and I want to kind of do this within the lens of the college football playoff. So, vis-a-vis the lens of the college football playoff, who is good in the ACC this year in football? As we start with our top category, it had been Jim Phillips, he's the commissioner, only hopes, plural. The category this week has been renamed. Jim Phillips, only hope. Miami. They got the 3rd overall seed. They were 4th in the rankings, but they were the 3rd highest ranked prospective conference champion at this point. So plenty of respect from the committee members doing their rankings in week 1 of the rankings this year. They were ranked behind Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia, and seeded behind Oregon and Georgia. Top 4 seeds go to different conference champions and get the bye. And if the playoffs were to start today, editor's note, they do not start today. If the playoffs were to start today, that would be the only team featuring from the ACC, unless you're trying to claim part of Notre Dame. Likewise, the Big 12, only one team in the field. I believe, well, what was the count? 12 teams in, ACC 1, Big 12 won. Big 10 had 4, so that's 6. Notre Dame was 7. Boise State, as the other Power 5 champion, was 8, and then I guess the SEC must have had 4 in the top 12 as well. So as reasonably expected, the Big 10 and SEC monopolize the college football playoff rankings, and thus the playoff positions, and thus the money that comes along with all of that. We shall see if anyone else can weasel their way in to the top. We'll see. We'll see if anyone can weasel their way into the top, because there are some teams that are good in the ACC, and SMU is clearly next up. SMU is currently 13th in the college football playoff rankings, in rankings that they take 12. So they are one spot out of the playoffs right now, had the smashing victory over Pittsburgh last week, and currently in exceedingly good shape to make the ACC championship game. The question is, if they win out, which would give them, I believe, no more really impressive victories, and then, say, lose a close game to Miami in the ACC title game, is that enough to get them in? And I don't know if it is at this point. So based on what we've seen so far, the ACC is staring at just one team in the college football playoffs this year, unless, say, SMU beats Miami in that scenario, and then Miami slips a little, and you get how that works. And they're only looking at one team right now because one of the other teams who's good, we think, in the ACC is Clemson. They were in great position last week before the first rankings came out, and then they took it on the chin at home against Louisville over the weekend. And now Clemson's resume is a loss to Louisville, who's also on the list as good. It's with a question mark. And their loss to Georgia, who is currently number 2 in these rankings, so they don't have bad losses, but of their 6 wins, none of them resonate at all. They don't have anything resembling a good win right now. So could Clemson play their way back in the mix, or certainly still win the league? Yeah, it's all sitting out there for them. But their position became a lot more precarious for the playoffs after last week. Well, it's as good in the league. I still think Pitt's good. Yeah, they got waxed by SMU last week, but SMU is good. Pitt, I think, is good. Louisville, they got 3 losses. They got no chance at the college football playoff. Some crazy stuff would have to happen for that. But they're good. I'm here to tell you that Louisville is good at football. All of their losses have been to good teams. All of their losses have been in one-score games. We move down to the power rankings and kind of out of the reach of the college football playoff now. 2 teams that if things had broken a little differently, they'd be friskily knocking on the door of these chances down the line. And leading the way in this category is the Goose. 6-2. That's good. The loss to Stanford kind of makes you say, can you be good if you lost that game? Well, if they keep on winning here, I think they can elevate back up. But Syracuse is kind of upper mid-pack of the league right now, alongside a Duke team that has been right there all season, though they do have 3 conference losses now, had the lead against Miami last week, and then the second half got away from them. And I got to look at this Virginia Tech team here, which Syracuse, if they want to find a back door to the ACC Conference Championship game, of which is not likely but exists, they may be relying on Virginia Tech here coming up to beat a Clemson team. I think it's not this week but next. Because Virginia Tech, based on what I saw in the Dome on Saturday with a backup quarterback and their backup running back, if Syracuse is to be frisky, and that game was tied after 60 minutes, then vis-a-vis, Virginia Tech must also be frisky. That is the natural order of the who's good in the ACC power ranking. So there's our trio. Now we get down to who's got major questions. I think this is where we're drawing the line, and depending on results Saturday in Chestnut Hill, the line could be very definitively drawn here. Because who's got major questions in the league? Syracuse's next opponent has major questions in the league. Boston College, loaded with questions right now. They are 4-4, coming off a bye week. At once, they were one of the surprise teams in the league. They were 4-1, but BC has lost 3 straight games. Their quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, who has intermixed fantastic play with injury this season, we don't know what state he is. The bye week certainly must have helped. But BC's got a lot of its last gasp here this week if they want to push their way into the upper echelon of the league. And coming off a bye also this last week is Georgia Tech, who's similar to BC's success early, has slidden a bit late with the injury to their quarterback in Haynes King. Now we get into the meh of the league. Who's kind of gross? NC State. They just blew out Stanford, but Stanford stinks. NC State's kind of gross. North Carolina just blew out Florida State. Florida State stinks. Therefore, UNC remains kind of gross. Wake Forest? Meh. Cal? Syracuse will be there next weekend. Update you on times of all that here in a second. Cal remains kind of gross, and Virginia's just meh. And Florida State, you have company. Florida State is bad. They're 1-7 bad. That's bad. Well, Stanford's 2-7. Oh, man. What's one of the two? Yeah. What's the most recent one of the two? Yeah. Yep. It was that one. That was the 44th anniversary of the Dome. Yep, that was that one. That's the second of the 2 wins for Stanford. Since then, they've been atrocious. They've gone to the tank since then. They've been, not good. Got absolutely thumped. Gave up 50-some-odd, 59? What was it? They gave up a lot of points. So many, it's hard to count to NC State last weekend. Florida State and Stanford, bad. As there is our who is good in the ACC power rankings, where Miami now and the college football playoff has told us this last week is Jim Phillips' only hope, with an outside thought of SMU making the playoffs. But as we saw it this last week, I don't know. It's possible that SMU could win out the regular season, lose to Miami in the title game for the league, be a 2-loss team, and based on where they're at now, it is possible they'd miss the playoffs in that scenario, which is not ideal for the ACC here in year one of the college football playoffs. Miami's in great shape right now. 4th overall in the rankings, top 12 make it, and then seeds get zhuzhed around a little bit by who was the conference champions. Top 4 seeds with byes are all conference champions. So BYU, I think, was 9th in the rankings, but a 4 seed in this. Georgia was 2 in the rankings, or pardon me, Georgia was? No, Texas, Georgia, Texas. Texas was 3 in the rankings, but a 5 seed in this, so it gets a little all over here, there, and everywhere. So we'll see how it goes, but the ACC is they're in a better spot than the Big 12, that's for darn sure. But as far as getting 2 teams in, what the committee showed us here in week 1, and you look at the ACC's competition with the Big 12 here, is essentially what's happening. It looks like it's going to be really tricky for both those teams. Both those leagues, anyway, to get a second team in the playoffs. Just not the way things are setting up right now. Yes, teams will lose, but teams are going to lose in all leagues here going forward as everyone's playing everyone down the stretch. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out, and it is going to be the self-fulfilling prophecy that is the SEC and is the Big Ten, where they play each other, and because of that, it's all a big win, and because of that, then, well, nobody has a bad loss. They're all big wins against each other. That's just kind of how it goes with the way this sets up. A quick update, as I mentioned to you, the Cal football game next week. Nothing has changed with the Cal football game, but we've been hard. We've been ruminating today. We've been hashing out plans. So the Youngstown State basketball game that day in the Dome versus the men, originally scheduled for 2. Then the football game, West Coast, California, Berkeley, came out on Monday as scheduled for 3. Well, this morning, the Syracuse Athletic Department announced that the basketball game, instead of 2, will now be at 1. So the game is at 1, the game is at 3, which is okay. Like, if you're going to the basketball game and then leaving the basketball game, it's a little tight to go watch the football game because one's going to end right when the other one's starting. Watch party in the Dome, anyone? I've heard they've got 4 gigantic TVs hanging from the center of the building. Idea bubble. Still beer. As far as our plans for it, here's what we've settled on. So what's going to happen is there's a football broadcast of the Syracuse Sports Network. As we know, TK99 is the home of the Orange. That game will remain on TK99. The broadcast, even though the games may not intersect, the broadcast will collide with each other. The basketball broadcast of the Syracuse Sports Network is going to be here on ESPN Radio, which means my pregame show. Where do I put the pregame show? So what we're going to do, and especially given the idea that, I don't know, the night before all of that, some guy named Kyan Anthony is announcing his collegiate decision, and I just have a hunchity-hunch feeling we may want to discuss that. We'll be here 10:30 Saturday morning. Not this Saturday. We're here at 9 this Saturday because the game's at noon. 10:30 next Saturday morning, the 16th. We'll do an hour here on Hoops. Maybe on Cayenne. I don't know. Get you ready for the game. It's all going to be on Q Sports Talk. We're going to have like a weird half-hour hangout in the middle. We'll just hang out. I'm going to walk down the hall to the TK studio. And then me and McAllister, I think. Did I leave my phone somewhere? Oh, boy, I just texted Mike about this, and I've left my phone somewhere. He may have answered this already. How can I leave? It's 2024. How can I leave my phone somewhere? Feel naked. Anyway, we'll do that, and then we'll get into the TK tailgate at noon and get you ready for football. Then when it's all done, when all the games are over, we'll convene back here, Q Sports Talk, at the end of the day, and just massive post-game show festival for all of the sports ball games that happen a week from Saturday. And that'll be on Q Sports Talk because there's a crunch game. Got that? There's a lot going on this month. There's lots of things and balls and goalposts. There's a lot of stuff. So write that all down. We'll remind you repeatedly over the course of the next week and a half. This Saturday, reasonably simple. The football game's at noon. TK tailgate at 9. Pre-game show here on ESPN at 10. Post-game show afterwards. We all know how to do that. All right. With that all said, that is our Burdick BMW opening drive for today. With that, let's see how the markets did here today on day one, post-election day. For that, we bring in Bill from Lee Baldwin. All right, how did the markets do today, Bill?
I think it was the Dow Jones Industrial Average best day in history, rising 1,508 points, or 3.6%. Second time in history it's even been over 1,000 points in one day. So everyone is expecting Trump to be pro-growth for the economy, so the market took off today. Plenty of diamonds today. Tesla was up 14% as Elon Musk is a big supporter. The big banks, actually regional banks, did great as well, along with Bitcoin as they expect some deregulation. And then you got the U.S. Steel rose 8% as they're hoping tariffs will help protect their steel. So plenty of diamonds today, and not many dogs. We're going to go with First Solar, which fell 11%. They kind of need government incentives to keep sales going. So maybe that'll get hit in this administration. Maybe not, but overall, big up day.
All right, there we are, Bill. Always interesting to see how the election affects things like that. Thank you, as always. There he is, Bill from Lee Baldwin, with all of the diamonds, of which there were many today, and none of the dogs. All right, let's step aside for a few. Phone lines open next, 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. Our guy Scott Mutrin, BC Radio Network, coming up in about 15 minutes to tell you about the Eagles. All that and more here on a Wednesday. It's Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
Let's go.
Oh, Lord. Where's my phone? Panic. I'll be right back. Okay. Well, I know where my phone is. Mike has delivered my phone. It was on my desk. Okay. Phone's ringing. Armosaurus is slinging health insurance. We're hooking up Mike. Make sure his hip doesn't fall off. Yeah, the QR code's kind of like a multi-screen situation. You gotta earn it, Kev. Like, you're getting a lot. What are we giving you? Round trip for 2 to the Miami game. Tickets. 2-night stay in a 4-star hotel. Ooh. Prepaid Visa and Uber gift cards. There we are. Labatt Blue and SU Swag. Live interview on ESPN Radio. We'll see about that part. Yeah. Second phone. Did it from the TV? Yeah. Yeah. I've won the Labatt. Can I trade in the flight to Miami for more Labatts? It's a hell of a deal is what it is. That's a lot of stuff. Do we got to give you tax forms with all that? That sounds like a fantastic deal. Yeah, I think the Miami game... Is that midweek? I think it might be midweek. I don't know if that's a weekend game. That's why we picked, like... we were figuring out which game to do. We wanted to pick a warm weather locale. So that's why Miami... And nobody's won it yet, Armosaurus. It is open. It's the thing up right now on your screen. It is open to register until the end of December. The game is in February. Let's look at the schedule. When the hell's the game? The game is scrolling. The game is Tuesday, February 11th. Valentine's Day trip.
E15. Here's Brian Higgins.
All right, rolling along here on this Tuesday. Phones available, 315-437-7644. Guys, Scott Mutrin from the Boston College Radio Network coming up in less than 10. Get you ready for Saturday. Well, let's go to the phones and bring in our guy Scooter in Jamesville. Hey, Scoot, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like Ohio State for Boise. I was hoping Penn State. I mean, to me, I'm not scared of Penn State. It's especially what you saw at the end of the Ohio State game where they just. I don't know if you saw the 3 plays where they sent the big offensive lineman in motion and didn't block anybody. Still trying to run the ball up the middle of 3 straight at Ohio State. It's like, who came up with this creative play? You know?
Yeah, they were running an. Yeah, that was a great offense from like 1984. I think they were 40 years ago trying to pound it in the end zone there.
Yeah, it was Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes right there. Yeah, you're right. But the interesting part. Let me ask you quickly. The losers on December 20th. I mean, the first round is at the opponent's home field, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you lose, you're done. I mean, you don't go on and play in any bowls, right? You're done.
That is,
and that's it.
Yeah, that is correct to my understanding, Scoot. Like, so it's a little earlier than those teams would normally be. You know, because obviously if you're in the playoff, you'd probably normally be in like a New Year's Day bowl game or something like that. But
right.
Yeah, if you lose, then that is it, and good night, season over.
Okay, because it seems to me these conference tournament championships are getting irrelevant because your Redder might not want to play in it. I mean, there's a couple times that Alabama, doesn't play in their conference tournament and actually won the title. Remember, LSU played Georgia.
Yeah.
And Alabama sat out, and they still wanted a rematch between LSU and Alabama. And to me, that's just one less wear and tear on the body. And if you're sitting out and you're in the top 12 or top 7 or 8, it doesn't really matter. You're in the playoffs, and outside, I mean, to me, it'd be interesting going on if these championship games really mean nothing, because they're all like December 6th and 7th, so you got only 2 weeks to prepare, but you could sit out. But I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'll say this: I know the man who knows is out there looking, for his Friday picks, but Indiana is 9-0 against the spread and 9-0 against their team total, and looks like teams like Indiana, BYU, and even Boise State's going to have to do some style points. Or back to the BCS stuff, where I guess points matter if you blow a team out, and it'd be interesting. BYU's team total is only 22 against Utah, but it looks like those teams there, if they want to keep their ranking, at least have to look kind of impressive, and we'll see how it goes. But I thought BYU, and it was a little bit lower than I thought. The Big 12 looks like they have no respect for the Big 12, right? I mean,
right.
I don't know. It's interesting. We're down to Power Fours, and still the Southeast and the Big 10 is overrated. What I've seen, get them on a neutral field. Even Ohio State hasn't looked that great. Indiana, that's going to be interesting. I think next week or a couple weeks, Indiana goes in to plays Ohio State, and that'll be the interesting game right there. Can they flip-flop where Indiana can move up and maybe Ohio State? Is there any possibility Boise State moves up and actually hosts the game?
I'd say hosting a game is going to be tough, Scoot, because they'd have to get into the top 8 for that. Like the 5 through 8 seeds are going to be hosting a game. Here's the question, because Boise State was ranked 12th. Can they move up 1, I think, is an interesting question, because the 5 seed is an interesting spot, because you look at, realistically, it's going to be the second-ranked team out of the SEC or the Big Ten is going to get the 5 slot. And to your point, Scoot, that could be, based on how things work, it could be some combo of Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia that doesn't have to play in their conference title game that's sitting there. Yeah. Is like a team that's been ranked number 1 overall in the country.
Exactly.
And then a team their path might be hosting Boise and then going neutral site to play the Big 12 champion. So it's a pretty good seed to have, all things considered.
No, I agree. That's an instant part of this whole equation. I mean, this is the first year, and they're going to have the kinks out. And we were joking, right? There was I don't think it's a possibility maybe now, but there have been the ultimate was the Army-Navy fiasco where you could go back and forth, and a team like a Boise or UNLV might be ranked higher after the actual regular season game, but it doesn't matter because the championship game counts and stuff. But is there a possibility that a non-Power 5, if they're ranked so high, do not win their championship, they could get a large bid?
I mean, by rules, yes. Looking at the rankings right now, it was the only. I think Army was at 25 was the only other non-Power 5 team ranked. It's not going to happen this year. Could it happen? Yes. Is it likely? No. I mean, the other interesting possibility. You look right now. Will this happen? Probably not. But BYU is 9th. Boise State is 12th. Is there a world in which the Big 12 champion is 8-4, and Boise could be the 4th seed in a scenario like honestly, I'd say it's more likely, as crazy as this sounds, it's more likely that Boise is the 4th seed than the 10th seed. as crazy as that sounds.
What do you think about the Boston Cows game? 2 years ago, we tried to plant a flag. Do you remember?
Planting a flag in artificial turf never goes well.
Well, you don't do it to an opponent you're going to see every year.
Yeah.
You do it a non-conference. Oklahoma did that against Ohio State. Remember?
Baker Mayfield. That's great.
Yeah. The only joke is Ohio State played actually Oklahoma the very next year. So guess what? I guess we got it planted that year. But the bottom line is that sort of I know O'Brien wasn't there, but is that bulletin board material for anybody that was around a couple years ago?
I mean, I'm trying to remember if BC did that last year in the Dome. It certainly was. It certainly was last year. Now you're a year removed from it, so probably not as much. But but especially with a new head coach who had nothing to do with it. But we'll see. I think last year though it played a part in last year's game for sure.
Well, this is a reminder. If we're going to play a team in conference, year in, year out, I don't think you plant flags on the opposition, knowing you got to play them the following year.
Yeah,
that's just my rule of thumb.
At least be really certain of how that's going to shake out. All right, Scoot, we got to run to get to our guest.
Yep.
Thank you. There is Scooter. We will talk a little BC. We'll bring in our guy Scott Butrin after this here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
The Sports.
Oh, that Baker was he lit them up. He lit them up in that game, T. Murphy. Aggressively. I forget what his stats were in that game, but they destroyed them. Just destroyed them. Yeah, we should have a Scooter picture. Just Scooter in the fan cave at the Yellow Brick. Whether he's there or not. Fish tender, what's up? Mm-hmm. Is that Scooter? It's just that and like gambling stuff. Yeah, like that and just like a Saratoga program from like the third race. Like, here's the third race at Aqueduct. Oh, yeah. Who's that? Is that Darren? I want to say that was Darren Woodson that clocked him, T. Murphy. He got lit up. Because it was the second time he did it that game, right? He did it once and then he did it again. I want to say that was Darren Woodson, T. Murphy, if memory serves. Stuff like that's fun every now and again. I'm not the one getting leveled. My problem with the trying to plant the field, like planting the flag in the field, like it's a good bit. My problem is like if you're trying to plant the flag in an artificial turf field, that's like that should be like a question on an IQ test. Like what are we doing here? Like that's not going to work. I forget who did that. Who had the flag? I don't recall. Was it Teague? What's that? Yeah, I know. Was that? But that was Ohio State. That was a grass field. Yeah, like the Syracuse at Boston College a couple of years ago, somebody tried to do it like in the artificial turf. I'm like, dude, it's artificial turf. Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, T.O. had that coming. Like, because that was the second time he did it. He did it twice that game, right? So they were ready the second time.
All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
Here we are indeed, rolling along on this Wednesday, getting closer to our annual edition of Houston, BC on the football field, noon Saturday in Chestnut Hill. We always like to check in with our next guest when it's time for Houston, BC to play some football. He is Scott Mutryn of the Boston College Radio Network. Scott, always good to chat, and man, this is always a lot of fun game this time of year, right, when Houston, BC get together.
Without a doubt. Always good to get old Big East rivals back playing each other, so it's always fun because it's been a nice rivalry, I think. And if memory serves me correct, I believe this is the 100th meeting of BC and Syracuse this game, so it's got a little historical precedent to it as well.
We were just talking during the last break, remembering Syracuse's last trip there where the Orange tried to plant the flag in the artificial turf after the game, which did not go so hot. Anybody still talking about that stuff around there 2 years after the fact?
I think that's one of those events both sides want to forget. Not obviously got to have a little better lawn education and what can be planted in the ground, and then the performance by BC that game. I think both parties are probably best to just not talk about that and just move on.
I'd say if you have a grass field and you want to do it, it's a certain statement when you're trying to jam something in the artificial surface. It's literally not going to work. Literally not going to work. All right, so let's get on the field with this year's Eagles. 4-1 start. Looking great early, lost 3 in a row. I know Castellanos has been a little banged up in and out. What have you noticed here of the change from the great start to what we've seen here in the last few weeks?
The biggest change is just playing a complete football game. BC got away with it, I would say, in the Michigan State and Western Kentucky games where they had good second-half performances to propel them to wins, but they haven't played a full 4 quarters, and it hurt them. Virginia, they came out like gangbusters in a bad second half. Virginia Tech, that was a good 1 quarter, a great 1 quarter, and 3 poor quarters. And then, this past game against Louisville, you get a 20-point lead and can't hold on at home. It's just the lack of ability to finish games or to play complete games is what's hurt them the most.
First-year head coach Bill O'Brien coming back to his home area. Obviously, we know his history of the NFL with the Texans and the success he had getting Penn State back on track. What has Bill brought to the scene there in his first year of a guy that, he's been around the block a time or two?
Yeah, I think credibility and accountability are 2 strong things to think about. With the pedigree that you just mentioned, he can walk into a room and he's going to, demand respect from the players, because if they're all trying to play at the next level, there's someone that has coached at that level and been very successful at that level, so he knows what it takes. And then the accountability of, it's not always going to be easy, right? And things aren't always going to go your way. How do you respond to adversity? How do you pick your teammates up? How do you build a foundation that can be repeated for success over and over? And you want to hold players to that. And players these days, honestly, they crave that. They want to be held accountable. They want to know that they can, do their job, and the guy next to them, they can trust on him to do that as well. And that's something that, it takes some time to build, but it's something that Bill is trying to establish with the identity of this team and what it's going to look like in years to come.
How comfortable is he, in his skin in the job? Every interview I've seen with him here, he looks like 9,000 more percent relaxed than I've ever seen him before. Back in his home area, he's got BC. Is that the sense you've gotten, Scott?
Yeah, I think, you get Bill O'Brien had a great time, right? He's in his coaching career. If you would have got Bill O'Brien, when he went to Penn State back in the day, I think you would have seen an ambitious coach that had some success and wanted to see how far he can go. And I think the experiences at the end of his regime at Houston, probably humbled him a little bit this past season with the Patriots, with the debacle that they had there. Probably gave him, humbled him a little bit, but didn't, detract the fact that he knew that he could go to BC and he knew what, he could do at BC. I think that's the biggest thing is he knows I think you see that comfort is because he has a plan and he knows what he wants to build there. He's seen what's been successful there, and he's excited to go about that and to get it done. And I think that is something that you just really noticed. It's, yes, personally it's great because all his family's in the area. He's closer to home and all that. But I do think he knows and has known for a long time that Boston College is a job that he can win at and be successful at.
Yeah, I'd say, that part of it, like their careers have had completely different trajectories to where they're at is very similar between him and Fran Brown of, embracing the idea of what the job is they just took and, attacking it with not just a general plan, but a specific plan. It's certainly working so far for both. We got Scott Butrin with us from the BC Radio Network. All right, so the first thing I thought when I saw BC on the field this year, we know Bill's offensive background, and we've known Thomas Castellanos here for the last year. And last year, he's running all over the place. It's kind of like a chicken with his head cut off in the best of ways at point. It feels like Bill has harnessed that in a positive way to some extent this year. What has the Bill O'Brien effect on Thomas been?
Well, I think the biggest thing that they've tried to drill into Thomas is to not make those big mistakes. If you look back at some of the games last year when BC lost, they see the mistakes that Thomas made really put them in a bind and really hurt them to win football games. And I think they've coached him up a little bit to not always have to make an explosive play every single time and to not turn the football over. And I think that's important in the maturation of Thomas. I do think what you've noticed in the last couple games, though, is his indecisiveness has been a problem for BC because part of, like you mentioned, the chicken with the head cut off thing is that unpredictability is very difficult for defenses to corral. And it seems like Thomas is sometimes afraid to pull it and run it when he should, and sometimes afraid to throw it when he should throw it. And I think that just half a click of him just not trusting it and letting it fly has been some of the reason you've seen the struggles in that BC offense. It's almost like you have to be willing to find a middle ground. Like, don't take away his superpower and his legs that make him so unpredictable, but yet just try to reel him in from some of those really disastrous decisions and turnovers that can change the whole complex of a game. And there were, 3 or 4 games last year where BC's in control and he has some really bad turnovers that changed the game. And even the Virginia game, this year is a game BC's rolling and he has a really bad interception that kind of changed the whole complex of that game. So I think they have to find that healthy balance with him and let him go. And he just needs to just go and play and just trust his eyes and just be decisive because he's so tough to defend when he's decisive.
Yeah, we know with his play style, right, and his stature, like injuries are always going to be a question. I know he's been banged up during the course of the season. How at last check, is his health, and how do you think a bye week here will freshen him up heading into November?
Yeah, it's unique at BC's bye schedule. They basically have, 2 bye weeks within a 4-week period, so it gives an opportunity to rest some of these guys. But BC hasn't played a Saturday game in over a month, so it's going to be weird to be playing back on Saturday again. So I think it's going to help, get him healthy. But also, I think part of it is now the psyche of this team, and having gone through 3 tough losses in a row, is how do you build that back up? And there's a fine line between the encouragement and then, kind of lighting them up and that accountability aspect where, come on, like, you guys got to start executing at a better level consistently. It's just finding that comfort zone with this team to get the most out of them, because you really haven't seen a complete game since the first couple games of the year.
Yeah, I'd say Syracuse had similar stuff with the schedule. They had a 5 and I think it was 7-week stretch that was either non-Saturday games or bye weeks, and now they're into Saturdays through all of November here toward the end, 5 straight to round it out. We got Scott Butrin of the BC Radio Network with us here. And, BC, I don't care who the head coach is or the year is. I always think of, all right, let's check who the running back is, because there's generally a pretty good answer back there. It looks like it's a pretty good tandem here with Trayshawn Ward and Kyle Robichaux. How are those two playing off each other this year?
Yeah, they've done a good job of using the running backs into their skill set. Robichaux is a little more downhill guy that's pretty good in between the tackles. Ward answers a little more dynamic ability in the passing game, ability to he can still tuck it up in between the tackles, but the ability to make a big play. Turbo Richard is a guy who had some carries earlier. He was hurt this last weekend. He may be back. He's a tough, thick guy that has some juice to the game. So BC has really been using those three guys in some different ways. And when they've really been clicking on offense, they've included the running backs, especially Ward, in the passing game, because it's just a whole new dynamic to add that defenses have to think about. And the running back tandem, they just really kind of ride that hot hand and who's playing well and who's seeing it well and following the offensive line, and then kind of runs with that hand each game, and it could be different for each game based on how the guys are running.
All right, so on the defensive side, Donovan Ezeratu, 9 sacks here, and Syracuse is kind of in a stretch here of running into some guys that could get off the passer. What's his lead trait of taking quarterbacks down?
Oh, he's relentless. I mean, he's a young guy, too, so he's a senior, and I think he's 20.
Wow.
Right? So he came to BC as a 17-year-old. He's very young, impressive length on him. He's not a very tall guy. He's about 6'1", but he's got long arms. And what you like to see from your pass rushers is that bendability and that ability to maintain strength while you're coming around the edge, varying up your pass rush moves. But the thing that you see with Donovan is his motor. He does not give up on any plays. You watch the Virginia Tech game. He hustles down the field to get a huge forced turnover, on a running back, which you don't see many defensive ends catching running backs 20 yards down the field. He runs down, gets a strip sack, leads to a BC touchdown. That is just the type of guy that Donovan is. He is going to play with a lot of energy. He's going to play with a lot of passion, and there's no plays that he's given up on, and he really is the identity of that BC defense and what they want it to look like.
All right, a couple of Cuse area related questions for you. Has Syer Torrance played at all? He's a freshman wideout from the area here, coming from CBA. Once verbal to the Cuse. His brother played hoops here. He played at all this year? Or is he hanging out on the bench or redshirt?
He has not played much, if at all, this year.
Okay.
BC's receiving core is pretty. They had some transfers in there, and they've had some depth at that position. You see the 2 transfers that came in with McGowan and Bradley that are older guys that have played, and then Jaden Skeet, those guys, and Lewis Bond. You're talking about 4 or 5 guys that have had a lot of experience. So it's an opportunity for BC to build some depth there. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good thing. People nowadays get way too caught up in playing early instead of playing when you're ready. You see some guys even on BC's roster. Like a perfect example of that is the guy Cam Horsley, the defensive tackle for BC, really good player. But, it took him some time. He didn't get on the field as a freshman and as a sophomore. But as he matured, filled out, got stronger in the weight room, now he's an impact guy where he's got a chance to play in the NFL right now. And, even talking to some NFL scouts, they said he's going to play in the NFL. And that's a guy who, may have transferred at some other places because he wasn't playing and he wasn't getting the results he wanted. But he's put the work in and he's really improved. And I think that's a good barometer for people nowadays, especially players, is what are you going to do when you see resistance? It's easy to leave. It's easy to transfer. It's easy to go do all these other things. The hard thing is to stay and work. And if you're willing to put that kind of attitude in and you're willing to put that determination in, you're going to get results. And I think, that's a great example of that.
Yeah, fair. It's unusual, frankly, in the transfer portal era to see people, actually bide their time and get better. All right, another Cuse-related guy we got to ask you about is Doug Marone, who's on the staff as the whatever the heck he is, special assistant analyst, whatever the heck he's doing with his best friend Bill O'Brien. And any idea what Doug's doing back there with Bill and on game day for all this stuff?
Yeah, he's the consigliere. He just, he's there for Bill as a great guidance. With that NFL experience, with his success as a coach, I don't think you can have enough quality coaches on your staff. BC has 3 former NFL head coaches on the staff with Bill O'Brien, Marone, and Rob Chudzinski. So if you can have great coaches on your staff, that only helps to it. I know he's working a lot with the offense and the offensive line, and you couldn't ask for a better guy to do that. Nice guy. I've had a chance to meet him sometimes. It's weird when you wear the hat I wear. You come as a former player, but you're also media. So people try to they're worried what they can talk to you about and what they can say to you. They're like, what hat am I dealing with? Am I dealing with former player who cares about the program, or am I dealing with some guy who's trying to get some dirt for the game? So, especially when you're new to the program, I think you kind of have your radar up a little bit, like who's this guy over here and what's he asking me all these questions about? But he's been very nice to me when I've talked to him.
I'd say one of Doug's geniuses.
It must be because offensive. Well, it's because offensive linemen love me, because they're all, as a former quarterback, you take care of those guys. You know how to butter up. I know how to butter up offensive linemen.
There you go. Like, if a quarterback doesn't know how to do that, like, you're not going to be the quarterback for long because they're not going to block as well for you. So there you go. Doug back in the day, here's one of the tricks he did. He'd bring in our radio broadcast and, like, the local beat reporter, like, the day before the game and, like, 10-minute, like, blitz through the game plan, like, off the record. But that way, like, you knew for the broadcast, like, if they were calling a smart game and it was just being screwed up by others, essentially. Like, he'd let you behind the scenes to know if, like, the stuff he put in made sense or not.
I like that. That's actually a pretty good idea. And then if they use it the right way, they can kind of see it and know the direction of the game and how well or poorly it's going. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's one where, like, well, there was a great play call. They didn't convert it, but the idea was good. All right, last thing for you, Scott. What are you expecting from this game here this week? BC got him in the Dome last year. I know Syracuse won in Boston 2 years ago. New coaches, both teams. What are your thoughts heading in?
Well, it's a different team, right? Meaning Syracuse from last year and years past with the Dino Babers system. I really like what Fran Brown's doing there. I think you're seeing him embracing the culture and the attitude of Syracuse football and how it was. I really I've enjoyed seeing them compete. I'm a huge fan of McCord. I know he had a really tough game against Pitt. That defense has, been hell on a lot of people, so you kind of give them a pass there. But you're not often going to see that kind of, things happen, but I really like the way he plays the game. He's not afraid to push the ball downfield. I know he's got some interceptions, but he's got a really confident way about him, which I really appreciate as a former quarterback. I like the way he can layer the ball on different levels and be able to use his legs to create some more time. I mean, he's not as dynamic as probably quarterbacks you've had in the past, but I do like the way he runs that offense, and he's a guy that can make every throw on the field. I mean, it's great having Gadsden back. It was a really bummer watching him get hurt last year. I thought he was a really special talent. Pena has been really good for you guys as well. He's a really dynamic guy in the slot that can cause some problems. I'm concerned about him this week, to be 100% honest. Mm-hmm. I really like the way in which he plays. He reminds me a little Restrepo from Miami. So I like the Syracuse offense. I think, they're probably a year away from meaning like next year, getting to kind of what they're truly going to be, but the identity in which they've established so far, and that's a credit to Fran Brown. I've liked what they've done. I've liked what they've seen. They compete. They play hard defensively. They're going to come downhill. They're super aggressive. Seems to be a pattern in a lot of these ACC teams and a lot of teams BC has played. Very aggressive defenses that get after the quarterback and looking to create some sacks and some negative plays. And that's going to be, that's something BC has struggled with. And when BC gets an obvious passing down, they've struggled. And Virginia Tech really put them in a bind when BC had to throw it. So if Syracuse is going to have success versus BC, they're going to have to, turn it into a game where they get ahead and then BC has to play one-dimensional, and that's just not how BC wants to play. But if BC is able to run the football a little better than they've had in the weeks past and be able to use some of their, play-action game and not turn the football over, I like the matchup, for them. But I've really been impressed with Syracuse, and minus that, last Pitt game, liked what I've, seen from them this year. And I'm not, dismissing the Virginia Tech game because I didn't see it, so I don't want to really comment on that. When I did watch the Pitt game, I know the VTech one was a tough win for them because that's an explosive team, very good offense down there. But it's a kind of a great example of that Cuse team this year, and Fran Brown's kind of attitude is that they were down, but they kept competing, were able to get a win in overtime. And I think the mental toughness you see from them this year is a little different than in years past, where you've seen Syracuse get up and get out ahead and get those big, like 5-0 or 6-0 starts, but against some softer competition, and then kind of wither away as the year has gone by. I think you got a kind of totally different team this year. I think they're a little bit more mentally strong than I've seen in years past.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case for sure, Scott, and it certainly played out in the two overtime wins, comeback overtime wins that they've had this year. You mentioned Virginia Tech, UNLV as well. All right, man, always great to chat. Thanks so much for hopping on for a few. Enjoy the game Saturday. It should be a fun one.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Brian.
All right, there he goes. Our guy, Scott Mutrin. Always good to chat with Scott. Was a QB for the Eagles back in the 90s on their radio broadcast now for a while, and always good to get some insight of a guy that, there's a guy that gets it, the guy that gets the Q's Boston College stuff. All right, with that, we will take a break. Much more to come. A little nugget for you about Fran Brown when we come back. Phone line's open as well, 315-437-7644. Still want to hit the Women's Soups opening win a little bit. Our guy, Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated college basketball writer, coming next hour. More to come next. Q Sports Talk, ESPN Radio.
Saturday.
Yeah. Marone already knew the clause in his contract that he was going to pull at that point, I think, Tronic. Sunset at 4:56. It was just so pitch black yesterday going home. Get it, Tim. 1 year. Love it. Look, it's Mike. Am I a bad speller? Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Am I a bad speller? I'm not an atrocious speller, but I have a few words that get me sometimes, and the spell check's got to get in there for me.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that to David. I'm like
I think because of spell check, people no longer are good spellers.
I'm a generational bad speller. Like, I have not seen anybody else's spelling ability in this office, and I'd be willing to bet that I'm probably the worst
last
speller.
year.
I was in there, and I was writing Illustrated, and I spelled it right. And, like, halfway through the word, I was like, I'm going to spell this wrong. I hope it's close enough for spell check. And then it was right.
Did you take a lap?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, this is exciting. And I was like, Illustrated isn't really a hard word.
No, it's not. All the letters kind of go where they're supposed to go in Illustrated.
Yeah, I guess I always just assumed it's Illustrated.
An I instead of a U?
Yeah.
All right.
Illustrated. See, that's where I struggle. Like, I think I just don't know how to pronounce a lot of words. Because, you just, I go with how it sounds.
I spelled the word correctly for how it sounds. Yeah. That's not how you say that word. Oh.
Like Halloween.
You spelled it with an O.
I've also been pronouncing it wrong, too, because I thought it was spelled how it sounded.
Yeah, Halloween.
Yeah. So it's not Halloween. It's Halloween.
Well, I mean, it's Halloween, but I'd say most people probably pronounce it Halloween instead of Halloween.
I thought it was Hollo.
Yeah, it's all Hallows Eve.
Till about a month ago when you told me that I was spelling it wrong. Yeah. After I told you, I found a trick to spell it right.
It's not that Mike is pronouncing words wrong. It's just he doesn't know how to pronounce them.
Maybe that's why Paulie never understands me. I'm just saying all the words wrong.
That's probably.
I was talking about how I pronounce a lot of words wrong.
No, we think he also pronounces them wrong.
We're finding out
that's what we're determining.
I've been pronouncing Illustrated wrong. I thought it was Illustrated.
Which is why he then spells all the words wrong.
Yes.
This is what we're coming to.
I spell the words off of how I say them, but apparently I'm saying them wrong. We got a high bar here. High bar on
Not split.
intelligence.
They spelled Adam wrong. They just split it. Yeah. Don't split Adam. That's against the law. It's a felony. Oh, man. We talked to Scott there for a while. We are excitingly behind.
All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
Quick little nugget for you. So I was reading on The Athletic Stuart Mandel's Wednesday mailbag, college football mailbag, as he writes every week. I like to check it out. Normally Syracuse, not mentioned, rarely mentioned, but got to a question. It's a mailbag. People ask questions. Somebody asked him, aside Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, who has been the most impressive first-year head coach to you? And Stewart said, Fran Brown. I was like, I know that guy, Fran Brown. And he said this, mentioned the things that impressed him, recruiting, the wins, blah, blah, blah. Brown may be the perfect example of my belief that being a good coordinator is not an indicator of whether someone will be a good head coach. The 42-year-old New Jersey native had never been a coordinator, but as ESPN's Andrea Adelson, friend of the show, reported this spring, on his iPad, Brown has folders from every stop along the way with notes, schedules, schemes, reminders, and plans for how he'd run his own program. And I think we've talked to Andrea about that article, and I think we've seen that from Fran, right? And Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien has had a more specific thing, but just as Scott said, Bill O'Brien at BC, a guy from the area, understands what BC is. Fran Brown, he's not from the area, but he's from the area. He's from the Northeast, and he's coming back here and referencing all the Northeast, the beats that you got to hit to be good. Very interesting that both these schools got coaches like that, even of very disparate backgrounds, to attack that role in a similar way this year. All right, with that now, already past 5 o'clock, we'll wrap the first hour. Little Women's Soups when we come back in hour 2. And Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated college basketball writer. All that when we come back here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
The Sport.
Yeah, Scott's great. We like Scott, Armosaurus. Uh-oh. That's not helpful, San Diego Cuse. And I've never been there. I have zero insight to offer you. I'd say at most ACC schools, I could probably help you out. I haven't a damn clue. Yeah, I would imagine. Can you, here, is there any way, if you go to, the Cal ticket site, does it mark it in some way? And then you can go take that information with you elsewhere? Do they have a ticket map of their own you can find? Well, there was some action last night, T. Murphy. Yeah, it's 2 nights of action. Who was playing last night? Somebody was playing last night. My Twitter was election, action. I'm like, what is going on? Women's hoops. Ah, they've got you fooled, San Diego Cuse, I can see. Yeah, if it's what they're selling for this season, then if they screw you over, you just go bitch at them. Or potentially, San Diego Cuse, you could call the Syracuse ticket people and ask them if they have any idea. They potentially might have some idea. 1-888-DOME-TIX. That's 1-888-DOME-TIX. Or that, the Cal box office should know. I'm looking to buy tickets from Not You. Where should I buy them?
Second hour with Burdick BMW.
That we do. Hour 2 underway here. What have we done so far? We talked to our guy Scott Butrin from the BC Radio Network. We give you our weekly power rankings of the ACC, but under the microscope provided by the inaugural college football playoff rankings that came out last night. And give you a little Fran Brown nugget. With that, we arrive here at hour 2. Lots of stuff going on. We'll be talking to our guy Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated college basketball writer, coming up in just a little bit, less than 10 minutes. We'll get to Kevin. Right now, just a little bit on Syracuse women's hoops. Season opener was last night, a 108-84 win over Niagara. Final score shows a big margin, jumped out early, kind of got reeled in a little bit, got down to 8 early stages of the fourth quarter. Then a strong close to start year 3 under Felicia Leggett-Jack. And impressive night for 2 freshmen. Their top-ranked freshman is Kiara Scott, and Shy Hawkins also featured heavily. Combined for 30 points, the 2 fresh last night. Scott, 14 points and 8 rebounds. 6'2" in there. Hawkins about 6 feet. Big wing player. Nice forward size for Scott. 16 points, 4 rebounds for Hawkins last night. And we're talking about, all right, what are you going to do? No more D'Asia Fair. Where are you getting it? Well, the freshman going to give you a little something.
Niagara sets up the full court pressure. The Orange going for a lot of these full court passes. This one hits with Kiara Scott. Turnaround jumper. Good for Kiara. What a play for the freshman. What a 12-footer right in the lane, and Syracuse looking very strong. Has doubled up Niagara at 18-9.
That is Tim Leonard last night. Speaking of Kiara Scott, the other freshman is Shy Hawkins, and Felicia Leggett-Jack. She's not afraid to use the bench as a motivating factor.
Shy got hit a couple times early, and she kind of backed away. And the one thing that prevents Shy from being soft is the bench. And she didn't play the entire third quarter because I didn't think she was playing tough enough. And we got her out there with 0.2 seconds in the third quarter. I said, you better show me something. And she got the rebound out of the net. And that said that she was trying to get herself ready. and then played that whole fourth quarter and was one of the leading scorers. So there's different ways to get them ready. I think this is a rookie group of young people that can coach the way I like to coach, tough.
Well, she had one last year at Alyssa Latham, at least it felt like at the time. And Alyssa had a fantastic freshman season, but unfortunately the transfer portal is ever present, and Alyssa left and landed at Tennessee. Go figure. So things other than coaching may have been involved in that portal situation for Latham. But looks like in Scott and Hawkins, you've got two again, it's Niagara, but 30 combined points, two freshmen, both off the bench in their first game. I get the pace of last night's game was just bonkers. There was 57 combined turnovers. That's how Niagara plays. Arch turned it over 30 times, Niagara 27. It was what is happening right now, kind of pinball. But good to see the freshmen stepping up. You wonder how you're going to replace a veteran, 5-year, Deasia Scott, 3,000 points. Deasia Fair, 3,000 points. Yeah, well, maybe some freshmen. Kara Scott and Shai Hawkins can provide a bit of an answer for that. All right, we'll step aside for a few here. When we come back, we shall talk the men's college basketball from more and more national perspective. Our guy Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated next here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
Catch head coach Fran Brown's post-game press conference thanks to William Mattar.
Yes, T. Murphy. We should know Monday. You're learning all sorts of things, San Diego Q's. Yes, we should know Monday. I mean, UConn does have a noon stench about it. It's very dark, Armosaurus. I'll tell you what's also not fun. Children that have not changed their internal clocks yet. I have been awake for a minute. I will guarantee you this. It will not be CBS Sports Network because it's a home game, so it will be either ACC Network or I would severely doubt they're going to CW Syracuse 4 straight weeks, so probably ACC Network. What else is going on there? How fast can I pull this up? Maybe you can call a play, San Diego Q's. I mean, it could be. It's a Syracuse game, and it's gonna go as part of the ACC television games. Like, it actually does feel very CWE, but I just can't imagine they'd CW Syracuse 4 weeks in a row. That'd be wild. All right, what's going on in the league that week? Early look ahead. How much time do we got? We got 2 minutes to figure this out. That's the wrong week. All right, let's look at the correct week. Come on. Clicky, click, 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 click. All right, there's a Thursday game, NC State and Georgia Tech. Saturday, lots of games in the league. All right, UConn, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Miami, SMU, Virginia, Pitt, Louisville. That's a good little game. Oh, it's SEC Play Nobody Week. Citadel, Clemson, and Charleston, Southern Florida State. One of those will be the CW game. North Carolina, Boston College, Stanford, Cal. Stanford, Cal will be like a Pac-12 after dark situation. Virginia Tech, Duke. That's a lot of games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. Wow. That feels like a ACC Network nooner. Like, they can't CW them 4 weeks in a row, can they? Yes, that thought occurred to me the other day, Armosaurus. I laughed and I laughed. I laughed and laughed and I laughed, and then I laughed some more. I wonder if he's going to self-deprecating reference or just totally ignore it. Like Pitt, Louisville, that's got to get like an ESPN slot of some sort. Miami, Wake, like Miami's their top 5. That's got to be an ESPN slot, right? Yeah, I'm guessing ACC Network nooner. We'll file my official prediction. ACC Network nooner.
It's the 315 with Brian Higgins.
That it is. Here we are rolling along on this Wednesday. Let's talk a little college hoops. Season officially started 2 days ago. Well, most everybody has shaked the legs out a little bit and gotten a game under their belts. The Orange survived by the hair of their chinny chin chin against Lemoyne a couple days ago. And always like to bring in our next guest to talk about the national scene in college hoops. He is our guy, Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated. Kev, always good to chat. Welcome back. And, man, good to have hoops back on the table, is it not?
Yeah, happy hoop season. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. So I'd say of early portion of the season, has anything caught your eye so far? I'd say Gonzaga just smashing Baylor the other day of the game so far has certainly been the one that's popped to me. Is it that for you, or is there anything else stood out so far?
Yeah, that was the high-profile game, right? Top 10 matchup in Spokane on big ESPN, and Gonzaga rolled, right? I think that said as much about Baylor as it did Gonzaga. Baylor's got a lot of work to do. They've got a new-look roster with transfers and high school kids, and really looked lost, especially defensively. But Gonzaga's really good. They're an old team. They have great guards. They have an experienced center in Graham Ike who can score in the post. They don't have a whole lot of weaknesses, and that's a group that I think can contend for a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Few, that news came out, earlier that day that, they've announced the succession plan for him. He says he's got no plans of retiring anytime soon, but, connect the dots, right? If they finally finish off the story, right, in the Final Four with a title, that could all line up for Few.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's too long for him. Like, I think he's got a couple years. I know he's someone that a lot of people have mentioned being sort of in the same boat as Tony Bennett, not wanting to continue in this kind of crazy landscape of college sports. I will also say he's someone that I think felt kind of obligated to finish the mission at Gonzaga, both certainly to win a national championship, and then number 2 to get them into a stable conference. He's done that now at the Pac-12 realignment. If he can win a national championship, he'd have checked all the boxes. Yeah, and a great fiscal relationship with the Pac-12, it looks like, when that gets put back together going forward. And, you mentioned Tony Bennett. We haven't talked to you since that all happened. It was only a few weeks ago, Kev, at that point. What did you make? And I'm not really surprised by, I guess, it happening. I mean, he's certainly not the first coach to make that decision. What did you make of the timing of it all with Bennett stepping down so close to the season? Yeah, look, I think, to be clear, I don't think Tony Bennett did this to deliberately screw his players. I know that's been a narrative out there. I've taken that as word that he felt his heart wasn't in it anymore, and that him at not full strength is not better than his staff at full strength. Now, I disagree with the latter part of that sentence.
Right.
I think Virginia would be better off with Tony Bennett on the sideline this year. But I think the way he views things, and he is very much kind of that he very much has that humility about him, that he felt, if I'm not all in, I need to pass the torch now, not later. And it's on a tangent.
Has he been hired for a TV gig yet? I just assume he's going to pop up on my television before the season is over.
I haven't seen anything. I will say I think he'll be very involved, whether it's TV, whether it's behind the scenes helping coaches. I think he's still going to be invested in college basketball, even if he's not working in it day to day.
Yeah, he's only 55, I think it is, so he's got certainly plenty of time left to do whatever he wants. He's made the money. He's won a title. He's in a great spot to do whatever he wants or doesn't want to do in the game at this point. We got Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated with us. We're talking college hoops, and one of the big storylines all season long, until it is no longer a possibility, right, is going to be UConn's chase for 3 in a row. How is this team shaping up this year for Dan Hurley?
Yeah, we'll get our first look tonight against Sacred Heart. I imagine they'll roll.
I think they're going to be really good again. I don't know that I would say they're an overwhelming team. I'm not sure I would say they're the favorite right now, but they're certainly in the conversation with Alex Caravan back, with a ton of incoming talent and also guys getting better year one to year two, right? They had a great freshman class last year that didn't really play outside of Stephon Castle. He's off to the Spurs. And now some of those guys, whether it be Solomon Ball or Jaden Ross, those guys are finally getting the minutes, and I think they will be stars sooner rather than later in stores. Now, interior defense, a bit of a concern, still kind of working out the backcourt hierarchy, but they got a lot better from November to March last year, and I think the same will occur this year as well.
Yeah, not the fastest start last year, but boy, were they humming by the time the tournament started last year, for sure. All right, so who is, it's college hoops, and it's hard to tell these days, right, with how much teams change, but, here on November 6th, who is your title favorite or shortlist? We know Kansas is preseason number one, Alabama's loaded, UConn's in the mix. Who's popping to you early in the season, Kev?
Yeah, Alabama would be my number one. I think their talent is just ridiculous. They have absurd depth. They have high-level guards, and now they have a big in Cliff Omori from Rutgers. I think Houston will be right in that conversation. They're dominant defensively. Won the Big 12 a year ago. I think they'll do it again this year, beat out Kansas for that crown. And I do think Duke will wind up in that conversation. I think their talent level with 3 projected top 10 picks is absurd. I think Cooper Flag translates. I think the fact that they can balance those freshmen out with experience and older guys like Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster, as well as portal guys that they added like Mason Gillis, and Malik Brown, I'm sure is a familiar name to you guys. So I think they're really good, and maybe some bumps as they learn college basketball for the first time, but I think that group's ceiling is maybe the highest potential. Yeah. Malik Brown is, we saw it in the opener. He's going to fit in extremely well there as like an uber glue guy to everything they do. It's all the stuff that you maybe don't want to do as a star player, and he relishes all that. It's one of those ones that really stunk to lose out of the portal. You mentioned Flag. Like, he had an excellent opening game the other night against Maine, where his brother's actually going to be playing coming up in the future. Go figure. How good is this guy? Like, is he a generational level talent here, Kev? Is that what we should expect from this guy this year? Yeah, I think so. I think it's maybe unfair to expect him to score at an elite level, right? I don't think he's going to be Zion and average 23 a game, or Michael Beasley and average 26. But I think his impact on every possession of every game he plays is so loud. Like, I remember watching him in AAU, and just the way he defended, the way his entire team was lifted up by him being on the floor. He's sort of a Draymond Green type defender with more athleticism, and then offensively just continues to add to the bag. He can play with the ball in his hands as sort of a point forward. He can shoot the ball. He can slash off the ball and attack the rim. He's lethal in transition. Like, he's just one of those guys that will be highly productive and contribute to winning, and really is all about the right things, focused on winning, isn't chasing numbers or chasing stats. He really is kind of the perfect number one recruit to have in a college program. Yeah, and you look at the top 2 teams in the ACC preseason, it's them and Carolina. So Duke being led by the young guy, Carolina. R.J. Davis, now like 37 years old, is still in college, taking advantage of the NIL, and back for another year, reigning player of the year in the league. What's Carolina's ceiling to you this year? Are they a team that can make a run at the whole thing? Their guards are phenomenal, right? And that's kind of question number one when you're trying to hunt down a team that can win it all. Do they have the guards? And it's not just RJ. It's Elliot Cadeau. Seth Trimble has made a leap. They have 2 freshmen, Drake Powell and Ian Jackson, on the wings, who are really interesting and should only get better. I think the big question with them is the front court. Missed out on some key targets to replace Armando Bacot at the 5. Wound up with this sort of platoon situation with one younger guy in Jalen Washington and 1 transfer in Ben Allen Lubin. I don't know that that's a winning recipe right now. They struggled a little bit with Elon. I think that probably holds them back from being, certainly a top-tier title contender, but I do anticipate them being, near the top of the ACC, top 15 to 20 nationally, and certainly in the mix to at least make a second weekend. So that's the top of the ACC. Preseason top 25, that's also the entirety of the ACC. There's not a third team that's ranked preseason. What do you make of the league this year? Is that...
people have no idea, lack of respect, or do people really think there's nothing besides those two in the league this year?
Yeah, I didn't think that was unfair. Like, I think there's a bunch of teams beyond them that have questions that can answer them. I do think if you look roster-wise and just kind of compare talent levels, 3 through 9 in the ACC looks a lot worse than 3 through 9 in the SEC and the Big 12, whose teams dominated the first top 25. Now, can these ACC teams win out despite that because of continuity and coaching and development and all those things? Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll see, certain teams rise above. I know people like Wake Forest. Pitt, brings a lot back and has a star point guard and Jelon Lowe. Clemson went to the Elite Eight last year. The list goes on, right? I think there's a bunch of interesting teams in that next year in the ACC. But I think it'd be hard to sit there right now and feel really confident. Yeah, Louisville's a top 25 team, or yeah, Wake Forest is a top 25 team. It's just a little. The picture's a little bit clearer with some of these teams in the SEC and the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Wake, and you got a sense of what they are. They got Hunter Salas. You mentioned Clemson. They got a few guys back, and Ian Shefflin and all that. What is Louisville? You talk about continuity. They are literally the complete opposite of continuity. Everything's different from last year, and obviously they want everything to be different from the last couple of years. Can that work that quickly? New coach, new roster, rolling it out there here in year one.
I think it can work within reason, right? I think their talent level is good enough to make the NCAA tournament. They really found a way to assemble 10 very good players, which is hard to do in the spring. But it's even harder to get star power in the portal, and I think that's the thing they lack, right? If you're looking and comparing them to North Carolina or Duke, they're just not the top-end guys that those two teams have. But they play together. They shoot a ton of threes. Pat Kelsey's a very good coach. He's always been extremely good when he's had more talent than his opponent. At Charleston, they didn't win a ton of up games, but they took care of business when they were favored. And I think this year at Louisville, they have more talent than a lot of the ACC. Now, if he brings this group together, seems like he's taking the right steps to do that. They can go 12-8, 13-7 in the ACC, and if you do that and make the tournament, that's a heck of a year one, given where this thing started from Kenny Payne.
The last 2 years were as large of a grease fire as it could have been. Just an absolute mess at Louisville, and we'll see if they've pulled out of that. And it brings us to Syracuse here, Kevin, as we got Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated with us. Escaped Lemoyne in the opener the other night. Red Autry year 2, newish roster as well. What do you make of the Cuse this year, and what can be here in CNY?
Yeah, not pretty on Monday night. It happens. They were certainly not the only ones that struggled, and you'd rather learn some lessons from a win than a loss. A little worried about the defensive showing against Lemoyne. Mm-hmm. Keeping guys out of the paint is a problem. But I do think there's reasons for optimism with this group overall. I think the front court with Freeman, Lampkin, and Jair Davis is pretty intriguing and the type of kind of three-headed monster that will cause some problems. Obviously, experienced guards with Bell and Starling back, and we'll see how Carlos performs moving up a weight class. I know there's been some early optimism there that he can kind of be that pure point guard that they're lacking. So I think they have the pieces to be right in the conversation, but can't really afford to play with their food again in these bye games. You already see the drop in Ken Palm, I think 20 spots or so. That's an overreaction. It will level off, but you do hurt yourself when you tinker with the Lemoyne to the world.
Yeah, it certainly hurts you in the net where it counts when you get to the end of the year. And Colgate up next, and we know how that has gone here the last a few years for the Orange for sure. All right, last thing, Kev, give me a team out there, off the board a little bit. What team in the country, besides the ones we've discussed, excites you this year that you think is going to be able to rise to prominence here over the next few months?
Watch Illinois. Like they're kind of a college basketball NBA League Pass team, if you will. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to take a ton of threes, play a fast pace. They have 2 projected first-round picks in Will Riley from Canada and Kasparis Jakashunas from Lithuania, whose name people will learn to pronounce here over the next couple months. They've got size. They've got a ton of shooting, coming off an Elite Eight, and just a ton of optimism, I think, in that program right now that they can continue to ascend in the Big Ten and nationally. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch and a sleeper nationally. pay attention to.
Yeah, they've been a fun team with various guys there to watch over the last couple of years. So we'll see how they do with kind of a newish collection here this year for sure. All right, Kev, always good to chat. Good to have college hoops back on the plate here as we move forward. We'll catch up again soon, I'm sure. But thanks for hopping on for a few.
Thank you, sir.
All right, there he goes. Our guy Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated college basketball writer. Always good to get the national scene with Kev. We'll check in with him time to time throughout the season this year. With that, we'll take a break. Get Mike in here, little 411 after this as we mosey along here on this Wednesday on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. The net. We love the net. Oh, man. Yeah, Baycott finally gone. Who the hell is Armando? Is he in the G League? Look, it's Mike. Armando Baycott. He's on the Grizzlies? Mike is gone. Goodbye, Mike. Is Paulie going to the BC game? Yes. Yeah, Baycott's on the Grizzlies. All right, he's playing a little bit. Yes, Paulie will be going to Boston College. He will not be going to California. Is BC missing a quarterback? No, Dan. Castellanos has been banged up a bit, but from everything I'm aware, he is available this week. Though I had no idea that Virginia Tech wasn't going to play their quarterback last week. Yeah, he's been, I forget if he missed a whole game or if he's just been in and out a little bit. Yeah, he's been banged up, but a bye week, so I don't know how much he's healed up in the bye or if he's going to be a little limited. But he's a little guy. He's been knocked around a little bit. Yeah, they really should do something with him at some point, Armor Source. Yeah, he was actually, it's one of those things. We were worried about him last year in the Dome game. He was actually terrible in that game, but that was the Carlos Del Rio Wilson game.
Couldn't have hit that any more dead center on the back of the rim. I'm just trash.
Mike is trash. It's not getting better. It's in the hoop.
It's so light. It's hard. You push a little too hard and it's off the wall. Just too strong.
Yeah, your strength is unrivaled.
Just strongest man alive.
Maybe you should throw the football between the goalposts for your kid. What do you think, Mike? Can you kick the ball farther or throw it farther?
I can definitely kick it farther.
All right.
I don't have massive hands. I got pretty average sized hands. So,
what if you get one of those mini footballs?
Oh, I'll launch that.
Let it go.
I'll throw my arm out, dude.
Oh, I remember Armosaurus. That was what a crazy night that was. God, that game was so bad. But yet we remember the day fondly. Yeah, what a time to be alive. Friday night at a bar, learning from some drunk dude that Carlos Del Rio Wilson is starting at quarterback. Great moments in broadcasting history. That is a fact, Ryan. We will have a special pregame show before the basketball game starting slightly earlier due to broadcast conflicts and whatnot next Saturday. We'll be on at 10:30 here with perhaps exciting Cayenne conversation. At the time, did I believe him? Like, I was curious, but I did not say it out loud for a little while because I was not going to source drunk guy at a bar. But then we found out he was right, so I've sourced him repeatedly since. I wish I had gone with it earlier. Because he was claiming to, like, live in the same building as Carlos's girlfriend or something. I'm like, what?
Maybe he was Carlos's girlfriend.
He was? He could have been.
They're in love.
Yeah, I hope it works out for those crazy kids.
Hi, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
Here we are, rolled along in this hour, brought to you by TVOffers.com. It's powered by Traverse Village, which still in Cicero.
Here's the 411.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
In the 315.
So you're going to be doing that all week, right?
Nah.
Mike's here.
And I am.
What's going on?
Nothing much. Off the word count. Back at it.
Yeah.
Little gravel in the voice, but you know what? We're going.
Yeah, now it's an intriguing gravelly voice, not like a incomprehensible one.
I'll tell you the future.
Oh.
I feel like Morgan Freeman. But here we are, Brian, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the NFL season, in the middle of the first month of the NBA.
Okay.
So I figured power rankings.
What are we ranking? Just everything?
Everything.
Oh, my.
We're going to start in the NBA, and then we're going to head over to the NFL. Thunder. Very good.
Okay.
Very good. All right, move on to the NFL.
Okay.
In the NBA.
Or is it the Celtics? Celtics.
Rounding up
Celtics,
number
right?
one. Yeah, it's the Celtics.
Yeah, it's the Celtics. They're just dump trucking.
Boston
people, right?
Celtics have been playing absolutely phenomenal. Pritchard's been doing great. He's kind of been a great 1-2 punch off
got a little
the bench.
Enhanced role this year.
Yeah, he's playing. Him and Drew Holiday have been about splitting time. Jaylen Brown's been playing great. JT's been playing phenomenal, 30 points a game.
Still don't have Porzingis back.
Still no Porzingis, and they're still the best team in the league.
Is there any timetable on that?
I don't know. Porzingis,
I mean, that injury was from the playoffs.
His timetables are always scattered. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know when he'll come back.
His injury, what was it? It was like 4 people ever on Earth have had this injury.
Yeah, and we've seen injuries like that 9 times in the last 2 seasons.
He's had the 7 most unique injuries in the history of basketball.
So Boston Celtics, number one, their team is just complete right now. They're deep, and as you mentioned, they don't even have their third best player, and they're still rolling through a lot of guys, a lot of teams, I should say. They're averaging the most threes in the league by, I think, 8. They're shooting just under 40%, I believe. Don't quote me directly on that. I looked at it earlier. I can't quite remember. But OKC is coming in at number 2, highest rated undefeated team at 7-0. They're they keep getting better, and they seem like they keep getting younger. I don't know. They're incredibly young.
They have 7,000 draft picks in the next decade.
They've got one of the best point guards in the league with Shea. Got one of the best young big men in the league with Chet, who's been phenomenal on defense this season. They've been playing great. Hartenstein from the Knicks. The team's looking great.
Lots of people named Jalen Williams.
Yeah, a lot of Jalens. A lot of Jalens in the NBA right now.
There's a lot of Jalens. Jaylen, Jalen. It's hard to keep up with.
Team that I am under the impersonation of not having a Jalen. I could be wrong. But number 3, the Cleveland Cavaliers, 8-0.
They probably have a Jalen.
One of their best starts since they've had LeBron. They've been looking phenomenal. Really, really fun to watch them play. Mobley's been looking pretty good. Jared Allen's been looking pretty good. Just a few days ago, Garland had hit a great game-sealing shot to take it to. I think it was actually to start to 8-0. It could have been their 7th one. I don't remember. But they're looking great. I mean, the East right now, it's literally just the Cavs, the Celtics, and then everybody else.
Yeah, Knicks off to a little sluggish East start here.
A lot of teams in the East are. I mean, third place is looking at 500 right now. I mean, we're only 7-8 games in, depending on what team you are, but that's still a pretty big difference right now going on in the East. Number 4, heading over to the West. Actually, we just did OKC, but we'll head back over to the West. Phoenix Suns, 6-1. Looks like they're finally getting it together. Last year is pretty much the polar opposite of the start that they had last year.
So when are they all hurt?
Yeah, that's the question, is when are they going to stay healthy? I mean,
no.
This is the healthiest they've been since they've been together.
Durant.
And they look great at 6-1, but
Bradley
we're
Beal.
just 7 games in, man.
Yeah. Am I forgetting somebody else that gets hurt all the time?
I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple months. I mean, we could very well see a quarter or more of this season where it's just Devin Booker out of that big three playing.
Yeah, that's what's probably going to happen. If they're all healthy in the playoffs, then they can do some damage. But
man,
that's a long time from now.
When KD's on the court, dude.
He's really good.
I think he's the best player in the league when he's on the court. I really do. I just think his scoring ability, put him anywhere on the field. He can do it defensively. He can guard the 2 through 5, 3 through 5. He's a baller. And
he's hurt.
Yeah, right. And this last year's Olympics, Devin Booker played fantastic. So expecting to see him be number 2 at points, number 1 on that roster for this season. But number 5, oh man, we're back. We're back, Brian.
The Warriors are good again?
Warriors, 6-1, number 5.
Have they finally assembled a little roster for Steph this
It's
year?
not a little roster, Brian. The Warriors are deep right now. They are in the top 5 in every single stat in the league right now.
Is Wiggins back to not being terrible?
Wiggins is...
Because he was terrible last year.
I think we've seen the best from Wiggins, but he's still a great number 3, possible number 2 sometimes. Kuminga's been doing pretty well with his minutes. He's been doing a great job finding the paint.
How about Draymond?
Draymond's been passing well. He almost got a tech. I think he actually did get a tech already.
Probably. I just assume he should have one by now.
I think he got a tech already. Clay, Clay.
Clay's gone.
That hurt.
He's gone.
Steph.
He's gone, Mike.
Steph.
It's okay, Mike.
He's doing so good for the Mavs right now.
But he's gone.
I love Clay.
He's not there anymore.
Rest easy, big guy.
He's with Luka. He's alive.
Yeah, not to me. He's not.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I want Clay to do phenomenal. One of my favorite players from the dynasty. One of my favorite players of all time. But Steph, at almost 9,000 years old, still getting it done. I was watching their last game actually when we were watching Syracuse's game on Monday. I had it up on my phone, and there was a play where I saw him do like a quick 180, and then he faked it to the left, and then while he was in the air, he said, "Nah, I'm going to the right," and then went through like 3 people. I'm like, he's 36.
Yeah.
Oh God.
What's funny is because LeBron's still going strong, you forget like Durant and Curry are getting old.
Yeah, if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have been really worried about the future. But right now, this last 2-3 seasons, like we've gotten some studs. Like the future is going to be fine. The future is going to be okay. It's still a little worrisome because, Steph, KD, and LeBron still are considered 3 of the top 10 best players in the world. So you want to see a little bit more step-ups. But, I mean, Chet's been playing great on defense. Wemby's averaging almost 4 blocks a game. Like, Shea was in talks for MVP last year. He's got a good shot already for an argument. Luka's been playing fantastic. The future's in fine hands in the NBA.
Okay.
And we're going to go over to the NFL. Number 1, easy. Chiefs.
They are undefeated.
8-0. Got to give it to them.
I saw a stat the other day, and this is wild. They're undefeated. They have led for fewer than half of the minutes they've played.
48%.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Like the lead? Yeah.
The win.
Yeah, we don't. We'll get to it.
Well, I mean, this week was a great example. Yeah, it's not even the first time they've done that.
All right.
All right, we'll win now.
Let's win the game now.
And man, the Detroit Lions coming in number 2 at 7-1.
I like the light, man.
They might be
it's still amazed. Like the biting kneecaps guy is like actually a really good head coach.
Yeah,
the Detroit Lions. Like when the Lions of one of all teams, like the Lions hired biting kneecaps guy. Like, another brilliant move by the Lions. No, it turned out it was actually a brilliant move by the Lions, and they got a GM that knows what he's doing. They got a hot commodity offensive coordinator that's on all the head coaching list. Jared Goff's playing great. Defense is fantastic. Offensive line is the best in the league by probably a wide margin. They got a squad.
They got a squad.
They got a legit squad.
I think right now they are the best team in the NFC, and I think you got a really good argument for them to be the best team in the league.
Yeah, you could argue that they're playing better than anybody.
Yes. Yeah. Again, like you said, Chiefs only led 48% of their time. They've played down to their contest a lot for being 8-0. So, man, it's a lot of fun.
The Chiefs are somehow both in like wake me up in January mode and undefeated.
That's like how they are so often. Like, we always question, do the Chiefs got it? Do the Chiefs got it? Well, they're looking to try to 3-peat. So, I mean, But the Bills coming in at number 3, Ryan.
Bills at 3.
4 weeks ago, a lot of people wouldn't have liked this, but they've been looking good. Josh Allen, this might be one of the best seasons he's had.
The Bills' record. The Bills have just the one loss? Is it just the Ravens?
7-2.
7-2. Bills or the Ravens, I guess, is the argument at 3, right?
Yeah. Baltimore's coming in at 4.
And the Ravens do have the win over the Bills,
yes.
so there is that. Yeah, I'd say they're there. I mean, those are the two main potential disruptors to the Chiefs in the AFC, it would look like.
I mean, Cooper could be a massive pickup. We can see in a couple weeks it really could. I mean, I don't want to say change the offense because, as I said, Josh Allen, least amount of turnovers he's ever had. This is one of the best seasons he's had taking care of the ball. He's playing phenomenal, but having a guy like Cooper, I mean, just to be able to rely on for even 1 or 2 big plays a game can very much change the outcome of the season.
Let's say the Bills and the Ravens right now have 3 of the top MVP candidates when you're looking at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry.
I'm just happy that Derrick Henry's getting some love because, I mean, last year
he's been fantastic.
I was a big advocate for CMC getting it.
I was a CMC guy until he got hurt late in last season. I was under the opinion, especially since Lamar won, but he didn't have he's having a way better season this year.
He was given the award. He didn't win the award.
What's crazy is Lamar is having a way better season than he did last year, and he may lose the MVP because he won it last year.
Yeah, that's a very good argument.
Realistically, that's probably what's going to happen unless he just keeps crushing it.
And it's hard with how incredible Derrick Henry's playing. It's hard to give it to his quarterback who a big part of that quarterback's ability is to run the ball. Well, he's not having to run the ball as much now that Derrick Henry.
Maybe I should hand it off to this human tank.
Yeah, exactly.
And just let him nitro his way down the field.
And this is a great relationship we're seeing because his entire career, Lamar said, I'm a quarterback, I want to throw. But they've needed him to run. It's not just that they've wanted him to, they've needed him to run the ball.
Are the Giants 5 on your power ranking?
No, as the worst, maybe. No, they'd be number 1 as the worst. No offense. Panthers. But you know what? We're going to go with a quick honorable mention. Number 6, Minnesota Vikings. 6-2, Minnesota Vikings. But number 7, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Go Mike Steelers.
I never would have thought that I would proudly say Russell Wilson's my quarterback.
You're a Russ fanboy.
It's my quarterback. That's my quarterback.
He's not doing catchphrases anymore?
No, but he is dangerous. Yeah. That's for darn sure. He's proved that.
I'll tell you, he's
not over the hill yet.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he's dangerous. Mike Tomlin is dangerous. That's that guy. Look at that guy.
We're winning a lot more than slightly more than half.
Yeah. The Giants aren't.
No.
Giants are. Sorry, Germany. Giants, Panthers, Sunday morning.
It's cool, though, because Danny Dimes threw a touchdown at MetLife.
He did. Congrats. Way to sneak one of those in every other year. Unbelievable. Hey, Germany. Yeah. Danny Dimes versus Bryce Young Sunday morning.
Quick question.
Enjoy.
Does he throw more touchdowns in Germany than at MetLife this season?
No, because the game will be such trash. But no. Those Europe games are always bad.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones versus Bryce Young in Germany.
I don't get when they set up these schedules.
It's going to be
like every year.
The score's going to be 12-8. It's going to be some just how'd you get those numbers? All right, there we are. All right, we'll take a break. What's on tap when we come back? Q Sports Talk, ESPN Radio. I think 1-4-5 should be enough. 4 and 5 were shorter. 1 was longer. I think that's probably enough. Must see TV. The Giants and the Panthers. NFL Network. Germany, 9:30 a.m. Yeah, this is repercussions, is what it is. Germany. So we, 2 world wars. Yeah. We weren't done with that. We will send you our worst football. And this is a warning, don't start any more world wars. Just wait to see what football will send you. Yeah, it's like you now root for the Panthers. Paulie and sales guy Scott, road trip to and from BC. Entitle it 2 Men Enter, 1 Man Leaves. Oh, no. Whoever leaves first. Whoever leaves where first? Has to be the other's maid for a weekend? Are they, T. Murphy? I bet leaves the car. Huh? I bet the concession stand, though, at a German football game, between the beers and the sausages and the pretzels. Hey, now, let's go. Give me a worst, something worst, all the worst. Load me up on the worst and the beer. Fantastic. Weisswurst, bratwurst, this worst, whatever worst. Do they think they serve beer in the steins? I bet you can find a stein somewhere in the stadium. Maybe they have a special stein section. Not been to Germany. Been to Austria, Czech Republic. Been nearby. Beer over there was fantastic. Yeah, worst team, worst food. You'll enjoy half of it. Yeah, Tatum, what stat did I see on Tatum today? That in games he has not played literally 48 minutes. I don't think he's ever scored 30 against the Warriors. So he may be motivated to drop a few on Mr. Kerr tonight. Look, kids, Big Ben.
.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
Here we are indeed as we wrap it up today.
Here's what's on tap tonight.
Oh, what do we got? Don't forget, get your tickets. The Lights on the Lake. We are 12 days out from the official start. Register, you can, for the Lights on the Lake 5K from Upstate Orthopedics, the Lights on the Lake Walk. They're coming up later this month. Or just get your tickets in advance, lightsonthelake.com, for more info for all of that. On tap tonight, Syracuse Crunch Hockey. They're on the road at the Hartford Wolfpack. Puck drop 7 o'clock. Countdown to crunch time with Lucas Favali right here. Coming up at 6:45 this evening. On tap of the program tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. What we do on Thursday during football season is such. We'll be talking to Don McPherson. Get you ready further for Cuse and Boston College. And we'll talk to our guy, Chris Brown, talk some Buffalo Bills and how they are cruising along at 7 and 2. So lots on tap tomorrow for the end of the week. Continuing to get you ready for the Cuse BC game coming up on Saturday. Certainly we'll weave in some hoops talk as well, though. The men not back in action until Tuesday, when Colgate comes to town in a game that has become tricky at the easiest here in the last few years. All right, that's going to wrap things up today. Have a good night, everybody. We'll be back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Q Sports Talk, ESPN Radio. Have a good night.